And welcome back to another live show. My name is Pips, co-founder of PropsMadness and professional sports bettor. You need to ask the questions, I'll respond. Can't wait for guys to join. Before we dive into the questions, I always do like a couple of spots myself, a couple of breakdowns, and then I'll dive into the questions. First one would be on Brandon Miller, as it can showcase the entire thing. First off, as always, starting with the expected minutes. When we set expected minutes, I added 2 additional minutes because lately he's been playing a couple of games with even 40 minutes. So yeah, 28 to 40, average 33 on the season, which is where I can see him tonight, maybe even like 35. So on the season, 33 minutes, averaging 22 points a game. But key thing for this is the injury report, as there been players are in and out throughout the season. So let's look at the games when LaMelo Ball is in, Cont Compel is in. Then average drops just a little bit down to 22 points. Hit rate hit in 10 out of 17. But we see a lot of green for the matchup. We can see they allow 5th most above the break threes. We can see they allow 18 most to his dominant play type. They are ranked 20th against catch and shoot, 29 against pull up. So they also have, looking at defensive rating, they are ranked as 14th worst defense. But let's look at the last 15. Over the last 15, they are down to 20 ranked in the defensive rating. Over the last 5, they are ranked 24, so 7th worst defense. Matchup looks great. So let's now start with the dominant play type. When we exclude top 5 teams in dominant play type, maybe even like 6. When we exclude top 6 teams against his dominant play type, his win rate goes to up to 10 out of 15, averaging 23 points a game. And also looking at the pace, they're playing at 10th highest pace, so above average pace. Looking at the last, let's say, 15 games, they are all then 8th highest pace, playing at 8th highest pace. So when we look at the pace filter and exclude bottom 10 in pace, we can see that he covered this line in 9 out of 10 games, averaging big 25 points a game, and that's with LaMelo Ball, with Con, with expected minutes in similar type of a matchup. So that's great. Before I dive into the next one or in the chat, we have a news for you guys. We have a new tool on PropsMadness, and it's called Check My Prop. For example, I'll go to Brandon Miller points and let's look how this looks. 67% win rate over the last 15 games, average 22.8. Head to head didn't cover. So this is a short preview of the matchup, and you can see a bit green, a bit red, and doesn't look that great on this card. But we have a surprise me button down here, and then you'll get random players, so we can then dive deeper into the PropsMadness and check them out. So I'll go through a couple of ones until I find one interesting one. So this one looks very interesting. It's Matas Buzelis under 1.5 threes. Hit only in 2 out of 5. Yeah, that's definitely not interesting. Moving on, the Anthony Melton under 13.5 points. Doesn't look great. Moving on. Fox doesn't look great. Doesn't look great. This doesn't look great as well. So we are just trying to find like one that's very interesting for us to bet on. Moving on. Okay, this one looks great. 5 average over the last 15, hitting 8 out of 15. Similar players hit 10 out of 15. They allow a ton of rebounds. So let's dive into Dante DiVincenzo over rebounds. When I look at the season, when he gets expected minutes, let's say 26 to 40 on the entire season, he's covered this in 48% of the games. But let's now include the games with Randall, Naz Reid, and Rudy Gobert. And let's look at the games when he's facing teams who allow a ton of rebounds. When he's facing teams who allow a ton of rebounds, he covered this in 57% of the games, but lately he's been covering much better. Last 18 games he covered in 12 out of 18, averaging 5.3 rebounds, and now gets a great matchup. Head-to-head played, had 5 rebounds, so maybe a decent spot, but just trying to show you how check my prop looks like. And now I'll dive into the chat and the questions and we'll go through them. So first question before the show, just a moment, need to can see the questions for question first one, but we don't have blitz rate. It was the question about how teams are doing blitz one-on-one, etc. So if teams are allowing ton of isolation and ton of the pick and roll ball handlers, they usually don't blitz or doubles. Yeah, we don't have blitz rate, but maybe in the future. What's more important, shooting zone or play type? Depends on a player. I would say play types a bit more for me, but shooting zones depends on a player. If player is scoring all the points from the paint or 90% of points from the paint, shooting zones matter. If player is scoring 90% of points from above the break 3 or from 3 overall, then on another one where shooting zones matter. If player has spread out evenly 25% mid-range, 25% threes, 30% from other rim, then probably leaning more into play types mattering more. Next question, Steph Curry and Merrill over 3 points. Let's check Steph and Curry threes over in check my prop. On the first looks he hit in 4 out of the 6. Similar players hit in 5 out of 5, and they are dead last in threes allowed, catch and shoot allowed, defensive rating, and defense against his position. But looking at this, he averaged 4 makes over the last 15 and covered this only 6 out of 15. So let's check Steph Curry. Looking at the last 15 games, let's see what's the issue in covering. Blowout. So when we exclude the blowouts, he covered this still in 6 out of 15, averaging 4.3 make. But let's look at the matchups. When he faced the teams who are bottom 10, threes allowed, doesn't change much because Steph Curry is getting special treatment no matter which team. Yeah, if team allows a ton of threes, they could still be double teaming Steph, so tough one to show on the win rates. But we can see head to head, he had 6 in both games against the Giants, and he had 17 and 12 attempts, which is great, so that could definitely be great. On Merrill, I think this one is a bit juiced now, minus 140 something, so yeah, a bit juiced. But when he gets 18 plus minutes on the season, he covered this in 17 out of 23 games. Yeah, he doesn't have much huge correlation, because we can see that he's playing top teams in defense against his position, he's covering in all tough matchups. So he's kind of guy that doesn't respect I would say the matchups. He just, when he's shooting, when he gets it, he's covering. So that's one very great. Moving on to the next question, Desmond Bain over 23.5 points and rebounds. 23.5 points and rebounds. I expect him to play huge minutes on the season. With those minutes, he's covered this in 23 out of 37, 62% win rate, almost 25 points and rebounds. Ton of greens on the screen. Dead last against his position, 8th worst against the dominant play type, 8th most points in the paint, the highest pace in the league, 2nd most rebounds allowed, ton of pull-up allowed. So looking like a perfect matchup, honestly. So when we check for like defense against position. Will we exclude top 10? Win rate goes up a bit, but I will go even higher. So maybe like when he's facing teams outside of top 15, he hit in 16 out of 20 to 73% win rate, 26 average. But maybe there is something like I don't know, points in the paint allowed that we could filter out. So when he's facing teams outside the top 7, points in the paint allowed 11 out of 14. So it looks even better. So he also had huge like games. Like he had game with 5 points in rebounds against Miami. Next game he had 43. So yeah, this is a crazy one. So fun one. Next question about Ace Bailey. Let's go to the Ace Bailey. First off, I would say think Markkanen will be out. I don't know if the report came out, but it's a back-to-back game after he just returned from the injury. So when we look at, he gets like 27, 28 plus minutes in back-to-back, or even expected. We can see that he's averaging 15.5 points a game, and then in head-to-head game in back-to-backs overall. And they exclude the early season when he gets 25 plus minutes in back-to-backs. He's averaging 17 points a game because most guys are out on back-to-back. And head-to-head against the Golden State Warriors, he scored 21 points with everyone playing, so that could be also great. Moving on, questions. Good morning. How do you feel about Spider and Luka points over? Already said something about Donovan Mitchell. Expected minutes definitely needs to be set. They are horrible against his position, horrible against horrible defensive rating, horrible dominant play type 2, dominant shooting zone 2, horrible against pull-up. So overall, great matchup. So let's look when he's facing teams below average in defense against position, and when he's facing teams outside top 5 in defensive rating, we get that he's averaging 34 points a game, over in 10 out of 14. Now we can see there is no Garland and Mobley guys second and third in points per game, so Mitchell could even be better. So yeah, that looks great. Moving on to the next questions. Castle over 6.5 assists. I think that one is juiced a ton. So yeah, 6.5 minus 114 actually. That could be good. Setting expected minutes 28 at least, max on the season with Fox and Wemby playing, and then we get that he averaged 7.4, but Houston Rockets allowed third least assist, but also he had 8 assists and 18 potential assists last game against Houston. So I'm leaning over, but not something great in my opinion. Moving on, what do you think about Spencer under 9.5 assists? Spencer under 9.5 assists. I don't see 9.5. It's kind of wildly available at 8.5. And in that case, without Ja Morant, last 10 games, and when we exclude this was a blowout game. So last 8 games since in December without Ja Morant, he's averaging 10.5 assists. Now playing Hornets, who allow 8 most assists. Last 15, they don't allow assists, so that could be good. Single players lately not covering, but he's averaging 10.5 over the last 8 with minutes without Ja Morant. So I'm split on this one. I don't have a bet on this one. What's my favorite under? I think you ask this question on every single show, and I don't know what's my favorite under. Maybe going to Houston, and maybe it's Keldon Johnson. Now that we have Wemby in, Fox in, Castle in, and then Vassell returned late last game. He played 28 minutes in that game, but Barnes was on low minutes, Vassell was on low minutes, so kind of setting expected minutes at 20, maybe like 18 to 26. Then he's at 10 points average. Also, he played Rockets twice this season, had 8 and 12, so That could be one. 8.5 points and rebounds could also be the play. So, yeah, I think this is the one if I needed to choose one under. Do you think books inflate unders because recreational look betting over? La, I don't know. That's a tough one because recreationals are not setting the lines, not moving the lines. Sharp bettors are moving the lines. If they did set them inflated, then they will be smashed by the sharp bettors and they will no longer be inflated. Most pro bettors bet under Saturn, excluding me. I'm kind of a weird one that actually bets mostly overs. But yeah, I don't think, maybe openers. So most of the days I have all of my early bets are usually unders, and then throughout the day they just move. So someone asked me on my show why I don't post unders, because they are gone. Like they open it higher and then they just got smashed because pro bettors are mostly betting, sharp bettors and syndicates and stuff are mostly betting unders, so they get smashed. So even if the line is set poorly, it will close where it should be. So I don't think they are inflating the lines. Maybe, yeah. Moving on to the questions. It was more evident years ago when player props were first introduced, but it still happens. More sharps know unders are good by now, though. Yeah. Basically what I said. So completely agree on this one. Odds are going up now, but I took Gide over 6.5 rebound. I think it's mostly because people bet it because it looks good, and I've seen ton of people share it on Twitter. But you need to be careful about minutes. I think 30. So looking at last couple of games, he played 26, 24, and 28. So he's still limited. The most he gets is 32. So probably like 24 to 32. In that case, he's averaging 7.7 rebounds a game. So he still looks great. He's playing team that allows ton of rebounds. They are ranked 23rd. If you take a look at the last 15, they are ranked 23rd. They are actually 28 on the entire season. So when we exclude these like two horrible matchups for rebounds, he covered this line in 8 out of 11 games, averaging 8.1 rebound a game. So, but this is, this is minus 150, minus 1, yeah. So I will definitely not bet it at minus 150 here. At 7.5. Thing is, they lately been starting Jalen Smith next to Vucevic, so there are kind of a ton of battles for rebounding. Buzelis great rebounding, Jalen Smith great rebound, Vucevic great rebounder. So Giddy numbers could be going down. So on 7.5, definitely a pass for me, honestly. Loving all the new tools, Pips, and PropsMadness. Thank you, appreciate it. If Edwards doesn't play, what do you think Jaden McDaniels points over? If you think he's not playing, you should definitely hit Jaden McDaniels points over. Expected minutes set without Edwards. He's averaging 17.6 a game. Matchup is kind of great. He's scoring most of his points from the paint. They allow the most points in the paint. So, looking at the game against head-to-head, he had 15 points and everyone was healthy. Now potential of Edwards being out, I like this one. Next question. Jaren Jackson Jr. Points over. Guys, would appreciate, I would like to respond to the questions about Props Madness way more than just bets. I will go through bets to showcase the Props Madness, but focus on betting question, Props Madness question, any tool, any feature question, that will be great. Setting minutes, and he's pretty much consistent lately, averaging 20.5 points, games without Morant and Ide on the season, averaging another game 20.5. Unders came, tough matchups honestly. Like you can add this, like most unders came like Houston Rockets, in OKC, Phoenix Suns. So if we exclude like top 10 defensive teams, he's averaging 21.5. But looking at defense against position, tough matchup against the Lakers. So exclude that one, it's 22 points average. Hornets, kind of great defense lately. Over the last 15 games, they're 7th best defense. A ton of red, slow pace, great defense. Don't allow his dominant shooting zone. Don't allow catch and shoot. Don't allow pull up. So way tougher matchup than it looks at the first glance, but still leaning over because no Ide, no Ja Morant. Next question. Just curious, do you not use the expected minutes as filter, or do you try to narrow it down a bit more? I use expected minutes as a starting point a ton, and they are like nailing it to the point like on 85 to 90% of the spots. But I have like 10 years of betting experience on the NBA, so somehow I will adjust it. I will readjust it because everyone has some. So for example, Miller, why I did this, like, okay, so I clicked expected minutes and then I change it to from 28 to 38, which is great. He'll play 36 probably. But I don't want to exclude this game against the Lakers where he played 40. It wasn't an overtime. He just played 40. So if he played 36, if he covered by like maybe 1 point, I will then probably exclude it. But he played only like 5 additional minutes, but covered this by 5 points. So I for sure want to include that game as well. So that will be one example. Now, people hit the like button. Yeah, definitely agree on that one. I like Reed and Green. Do you also like Podziemski over 4.5 assists? Let's look at this. Last game, blowout, 10 potential assists. Game before that, 8 potential assists. Against Dallas, 15 potential assists. So without Butler, with Steph, with Draymond, he's averaging 11 potential assists. Had 8 plus in every single game, and now gets the best matchup in the league. Looking at head to head, he had 8 and 3 in limited minutes. So yeah, Podziemski could be great one. So good find. I do like Podziemski over 4.5 rebound assist actually. Moving on from the chat. Do you try to avoid taking 2 overs from the same team or 2 unders from the same team because of the negative correlation? Yeah, so I do, but depends. Like if I'm betting one guy over points, another guy over assists, maybe I just combine them together for same game parlay because they are positively correlated. Or if I'm betting an under and an over from the same team, it still works decently well together. If I'm betting 2 overs on the points from the same team, I will definitely. So my standard bet is 1.5 units. Then I will just put 1 unit on both. Instead of risking 3 units on 2 overs from the same team, I will end up risking 2 units, but will bet 2 different players. So I usually just scale up the units like 25 to 50%. And end up betting both the bets I like. Nemhard over 3s. Just one, but seems like lately he's being cooking. Expected minutes. So yeah, this is example. Like expected minutes 26 to 36. But he only played 37 in one game, and in that game he made 4 threes. So why would I want to exclude that? So makes no sense. So I'll do like 28 to 37. I just like make it a bit different, not much. On the season, when he's playing these minutes, he's covering 21 and 34. Head to head, he covered in first game 2 of 7, second game 1 from 5. Horrible shooting. He's not a great shooter though. So, yeah, this looks probably good. Looking at the season, they allow above average in threes, but I don't think he has much correlation with anything. Would say maybe doing like excluding top 5 in catch and shoot. Then it looks a bit better when he is facing below average teams in catch and shoot, covering in 13 out of 19. So yeah, lean, but at minus 140, I think it's pretty fair line. Next one, Onyeka Okongwu, over 15.5 points. No Porzingis, CJ, no Trae Young, and CJ McCollum now in. So in those games, he did average 16.4 points a game, but nothing great. Against Boston, he did cover with 21, shot great from the 3-point line, was a blowout, so probably lost some minutes. Yeah, but he has some weird games, like 7 points and 4 points, but I think those teams are great against his position. Yeah, second best and sixth best. If you exclude those, it looks great. The Boston is kind of average, so yeah, I would say decent look. Moving on to the chat, question about CJ McCollum rebound. Guys, I don't think you'll make money betting guards rebounds on, just so random, but yeah, could be some spots, but I usually don't prefer those. Let's look at the games with Jalen Johnson. So far on the team, he's averaging 3.3 rebounds per game. Played Boston, had 7. Let's look at rebounding chances. It's weird, like 2 rebounding chances, 5, then 10, then 5, then 14. Yeah, I know it's really hard to tell and no decent sample size, but the odds are so juiced and line very low. What do you think? I mean, he's averaging 3.3, the line is at 3.5, so it's kind of where it should be. They don't allow a ton of rebounds, so yeah, I don't see anything with this. I honestly have no opinion on this one. I actually hate betting guards rebounds, so yeah. I would like to know what's the first thing you look when you open a match. Second question, do you look if player plays at home or away? I don't look at home and away. I think mostly you'll find something you are not even looking for. There could be a random correlation, like no correlation, but like some guys could have one season better at home, next season they're better away. So I don't think that's a thing. Just randomness. What's the first thing I look at the matchup? Like, okay, I'm looking at Hawks and the Celtics. The thing I know about the Hawks, about the Celtics, lately they allow ton of catch and shoot, 27 rank, over in the season 26. Above the break threes, they allow the most in the league. So who could that be? Maybe Nickel Alexander-Walker. Most of his points come from above the break three and as a catch and shoot. So maybe that could be a good spot for Nickel Alexander-Walker. So yeah, I'm just targeting team weaknesses and strengths. Like they don't allow points in the paint. Jalen Johnson scores a ton of his points in the paint. So that could be like a rough matchup for Jalen Johnson, and he's playing 30 to 38 minutes on the season against teams who don't allow points in the paint. He's under this line in 9 out of 13 games, but I need to include the games without Trae Young, without Porzingis. Then doesn't look that great with CJ McCollum. Then we get one game against the Boston where he scored 12 points. So looking at this without filters, we can see that he didn't play well. He's averaging with CJ McCollum, without Trae Young and Porzingis, he's averaging 15 points a game. And the matchup is tough. Single player struggle, points in the paint allowed, horrible matchup, transition, horrible matchup, pick and roll ball handlers, horrible matchup. So this could be another one where I will go like to Jalen Johnson under, for example. Pips, how can you use PropsMadness to view over point props? I get confused which start to pull. I don't have, can you just elaborate on that question? Like, I kind of explain that like every single time I'm researching on points, which is most of my bets. How much do you value past performance versus recent performance? And do you value player performance more or opposing defense? Oh yeah, that's a tough one. Sometimes you can have a horrible matchup for a player, but they just drop the line too much, and then you can bet the over still, even though the matchup looks horrible, because you can check. Okay, his line dropped a ton, but let's look how he performs in similar matchups, and then you can check the matchups, and you end up seeing that the guy actually scores maybe 1 point less in tough matchups, while the line dropped by 4 points, and then like you still end up betting over because the line is just dropped too much. Other than that, I value last 15 games more than the early games into the season, but I will take into account entire season, especially on rookies. Like early season rookies, yeah, I mean they usually struggle, so there's no point in looking at Cooper Flake like first 5 to 10 games into the season, comparing it to now. And also you need to be careful when you filter out players like Cooper Flake. I'll just go to him. For example, like okay, he has now 20.5 points line, and over the last 20 games he's averaging, as you can see, 20 points, which makes sense. But if you take a look at the entire season, then it's 18.8. If you set expected minutes, and let's do like matchup data, okay, now this looks like 16.7 points average. Like this looks like a great under. But look at this. On the entire graph, we have 12 games left. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 out of 12 games are from November, and he's a rookie. So I will kind of ignore that and look at the games from December, and then it's 19.5 average. So right there around the line. So that's one way to like to have like to approach the recent versus entire season. Next question, Jalen Brown under 13.5 rebounds and assists. Yeah, 13.5, not that wildly available, but let's take a look. Expected minutes, probably 30 to 40. On the season, averaging 11.7. Now plays a team that allows 6th most assists, 5th most rebounds, so that's scary for an under. Last 15 games allows 2nd most rebounds, still a ton of points and assists and rebounds. So this is a rough matchup. When he's playing teams who allow ton of, doesn't change much. No correlation with to position. Also, let's look at head to head. Could be the big one. 8 rebounds and assists against the Hawks, but blowout. Played only 30 minutes. Still ended up having 19 combined rebound chances of potential assist. So even though he had 8, he was expected to have like 11, but still 13.5 could be good. Wildly available at 12.5. So if you have 13.5 at decent price, that should definitely be a bet. How often do back-to-backs affect your decision or handicap of a bet? I'm sure it's player dependent, but any rules of the... It's player dependent, so you can look at the players and see how they perform in back-to-backs and make a decision on it. Donovan Mitchell, let's see who is playing back-to-back today. Let me... who played last night? I don't even know. Who played last night? Let me just check. Utah Jazz. I think Utah Jazz played last night. So let's say we've been there, but Ace Bailey. Let's look at back to back. If we include this like early season game, he's playing great in back to backs, but mostly because other guys are out in back to back. So he scored 13 plus in all 7. For example, looking at Keontae George, also back-to-back button. Let me just find it. Back-to-back games. He's doesn't seem to be affected much by back-to-back games. He's doing even better in back-to-back games. So it doesn't affect him. So I will kind of ignore it. I think there is like Shengun thing in back-to-backs. He is actually doing better in back-to-backs, if I remember. Yeah, Shengun in back-to-backs cleared this line in all 4 games. Even though he played Pistons and Wolves tough matchups, but also cooked his Kings and Jazz great matchups. So, yeah. It's player dependent, and you have back-to-back button filters, so you can check for yourself for every player individually. Any tips to find plus money ladder? Pop, I would say, for example, Merrill maybe. We want back-to-back shortcut on PropsMadness. Yeah, I mean, it's up there. Like you can see it back-to-back. It's up there. If you want to shortcut it here, if the player is playing on back-to-back, it will be there. Like, look at Ace Bailey. They are on back-to-back, and back-to-back is available on suggested, like shortcut. So it's right there. How to find ladder spots? I mean, it's like great matchup, and then like for example, this looks like an absolutely amazing spot for Sam Merrill when he gets 32 minutes. So on this one, it's kind of juiced now on 2.5, but it was widely available before, so you can scale up to 3.5, and he's still covering 3.5 in 60% of these games. Even 4.5, he covered in 8 out of 20, and you are getting amazing price in a matchup that's absolutely the one of the best in the league. So that could be it. Definitely could be like over 2.5, over 3.5, and over 4.5. Moving on to the next questions. What advice would you give to someone transitioning from recreational to a professional betting, particularly on building a sustainable network or avoiding common pitfalls? Oh, this I could make an entire show on this. Probably talk about it an hour. Transition to recreational to professional. So first, you need to have account. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that because it's probably illegal. But you need to have accounts, enough of accounts, because you'll get limited. Like every single, if you are winning, you'll get limited. It's just a matter of time. If you are just starting, you should definitely focus on softer sportsbook like DraftKings, maybe even Caesars, Hard Rock, ESPN, MGM, and win there first. When you win there, then try to build up some experience, knowledge, and bankroll, and then maybe you can tackle with the big guys like FanDuel and BetOnline. I would say even Caesars, but FanDuel and BetOnline mostly. Exchanges have great numbers, so if you can fill there, that's great. You need to understand probabilities and like not something like, okay, I like the Merrill over 2.5, 3 line, but it's minus 150. You should definitely understand what minus 150 means. It means you need to win this bet more than 60% of the time in order to be profitable. That's also one thing. You need to bet enough. Realize that ROI isn't important, but money won. So if you have like 5 bets a day and you have like 15% ROI, it's much better to have, or let's say 3 bets a day with 10% ROI. It's much better to have 10 bets a day with 5% ROI. Gives you more money in return. Yeah, I don't know. It's a like wide question. I can talk about a ton of stuff, but yeah, it's a grind. Definitely. You need to have a great volume, which people are probably not ready for. So yeah, what would you say? Sports betting is a way to make a great amount of income. Would you say sports betting is a way to make a great amount of income? Well, if you definitely it is, but it's tough. Like 98% of people lose, so you first need to be in 2% that win. Then you need to be able to scale. Then you need to be able to get a ton of money down. Then you need to be able to find great bets like every day. So it's a grind, but definitely a way to win a lot of money. Definitely possible to win a lot of money. Yeah, I'm doing this full time. How many bets do you make per day in general? Depends on the slate. I would say I make 10 to 15 bets a day most days. Smaller slate, depends. Maybe I could have end up like 5 bets, 6 bets. Bigger slate, I could end up with almost 20, 15 to 20 bets. Depends. Depends on the matchup, depends on the slate. But I'll say on average, I'll have like 10 plus bets a day, definitely. I meant the back-to-back all games filter. I don't understand what that's mean. What do you think about Klay Thompson minutes will be today? He had reduced minutes last game in LA. Klay, yeah, I don't know what's the reason for this. Maybe someone returned from the injury. Maybe he had just poor game. But let's look. No AD with Flag, with Marshall, with PJ Washington, with Christie, with Brandon Williams, with Gafford. His minutes have been at 20 points average, 20 minutes average, and he gets extended minutes when he gets it going. So games that he had huge scoring, he ended up playing big minutes. Or on average, he's playing 20, 19, 14, 17, 17. So I do expect him to play 20 minutes. If he doesn't have it, maybe 16. If he has it, maybe 25, 26. So it depends on his performance. Question about Kobe White points, but in a way, like how to approach this. Okay, first filter, definitely expected minutes, 26 to 35 on entire season, but let's include games with Gide. Then it looks a bit better. He covered this in 14 out of 17, but averaging 21 points. So he was barely covering most of these games. Like at 22.5, he's more under, so he's barely covering by 1 point a lot. So I would even look at this for looking an over. Matchup looks great. Definitely one. So above the break 3 is tough. Catch and shoot tough. So I will check this one. Catch and shoot when he's not playing teams in bottom 10. And dominant play above the break 3. Let me just check when he's facing teams who are not bottom 10 in league above the break 3s. He covered this in 6 out of 7, averaging 21.4. So this line could be definitely too low for a great matchup he has. Not a great matchup, but decent matchup. Like they are horrible defense overall, but they are just not great for catch and shoot and above the break 3. They are average in transition against ball handlers, free throws overall. So could lean over for Kobe White, but the last one will be definitely looking at head to head. And in only 27 minutes he covered this, so definitely leaning over. But yeah, expected minutes step 1, Gide in step 2, and then checking up correlation with catch and shoot. Almost no correlation with his performances, and dominant shooting zone playing up below average, averaging 21, playing above average, averaging 21. So not much correlation there. So yeah, overall looking good. Next question. You think there is value in looking at head-to-head match stats and taking guys that had consistently wide open shots? On NBA stat, you can see how many percentage of shots they were. That's one way of doing it, definitely. Yeah, definitely. I do, like, for example, Castle, when you take a look at his threes, big plus money. Looking at head to head, 2 games against the Rockets. First game, 0 from 4, so 4 attempts, decent. Second game, 2 from 8, 8 attempts. That's unbelievable for this plus 200. So I went back, opened at NBA.com, looked how were the looks he gets. He was kind of ignored behind the 3-point line, so he could be ignored again because they double teamed the Wemby inside. So that's one way of looking at it. But head to head, probably the most important. If he's not the best player, only the best player, they can change up, switch things up. But if he's a kind of a role player, probably like last game they double team Wemby and Houston Rockets won, so they probably like adjust the same strategy. So you can look at that game and see like what were they doing, and they were leaving Stephen Castle wide open, Barnes wide open, and Champagne wide open. So yeah, that could definitely be the thing. They played like, okay, let's let them beat us from outside the paint. And I'm coming close to the end. We are running for 45 minutes, guys. If you have some questions about betting or props madness, make sure to hit us. Last one, things looking at when betting rebounds. Like, I don't know how many times I need to say I hate betting on rebounds. I'll definitely decide to bet like centers on rebounds. So let's look at like last 2 seasons. Jared Allen rebounding in expected minutes without Mobley. He covered this in 19 out of 27, averaging 11 rebounds a game. But let's take a look at $1 thing. Last season in expected minutes, he averaged 10.7 rebounds. And this season in expected minutes, he's averaging only 8.7. So his rebounding rate dropped a lot. So looking at the data from earlier season doesn't mean much, but probably one thing like that. Also, rebounds allowed is mostly what I'm using. And for centers, I do use defense against position for rebounds as well. How do I bet double-double? Okay, let's go to the Gobert. Double-double. Set expected minutes. Even doing this. And then look at the entire season. 50% on this. But let's now look like when he's facing teams who do allow some double-doubles. Like teams outside of top 10. In double-doubles allowed to his position. He hitting 60%. Maybe checking the putbacks. When he's not facing the best team against putback, he is over this line in 16 out of 25, which is 64%. So that will be it. And you can also do research on points alone, and then look at the rebounds alone. So you can separately research both markets and then check it together. So in this kind of scenario, over 9.5 points at 18 out of 23, and we look at the rebounds, he's over 9.5 rebounds in like 17 straight games. So that could be also the way to like look at the last X games, and separately research rebounds and points, and then do double-double as well. And the last question, I can't go to the list like NBA parlays. That will take me such a long time, and correlation stuff, maximal as well, controlling risk. Like you just like if you are betting Edwards assist and Gobert's over on assist, and or Randall over on assist, Edwards over on threes, and Rudy Gobert over on points. That's definitely correlated, especially when you're betting overs. Closer game, overtime definitely helps. When you're betting a ton of unders, correlation, it could be a blowout, so that definitely helps. So many stuff, like it's just basically logic, like what's connected together. So for example, Steph Curry threes with Draymond Green assists. That's great correlation. And then maybe like Golden State Warriors winning or covering. That's greatly correlated. But bookies do take that into account, and they are getting better at it. So I don't think you can get an edge there for like against FanDuel, for example. But if you think all the bets separately have an edge, combining them together will definitely do. Do you value last 5 opponent performances or the last 15 more? Definitely value last 15 more. Last 5 could be just like random, like some team playing like Nets, and then playing like I would say Pistons, and then playing, I don't know, Denver Nuggets without Jokic, or some like if like Kings or I don't know, like some easy matchups, and then suddenly they are above average defense, while on the last 15 they are one of the worst. It could be random because like variance on play teams played, teams going like Hawks played Bucks, and Bucks played horrible defense, but Hawks started 0 from 20 from 3. They couldn't make a bucket, so that game will end up with Bucks having great defense while while they don't have great defense. So that's one of the examples. Okay, guys, we are running 50 minutes in. Thank you all for joining. It's been a pleasure. A ton of questions in the chat. I'll do this every single Wednesday, so make sure to stay tuned and prepare some question for the next one. See you guys.